Another week, another opening. Unsurprisingly, last week when we opened an Aliester and an Aliester Invoker of Madness and a Macabre, we need to find an invocation. If we can find an invocation, then holy shit, our deck has just gotten a lot better. So, we're back again for week 3 with 8 more packs of Shadows in Valhalla. Let's proceed without any more disgraceful thoughts from myself, because my god, I want it. I want it real bad. Give me that invocation, baby. Let's go. That's his upside down. Fortune Chariot. High Speedroid Shanabra. Strike Ninja. Goddess Verdante's Guidance. And another Wind Witch Ice Spell. We opened one of these last week as well. That's unfortunate. Dead pack for us, but dead pack it shall be. Can't always be winners, right? But in these 8 packs, I sure as hell hope we have at least one winner, and one specific winner indeed. Red Dragon Ninja. Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo. Advanced Dark. Verdante's Guidance. A Secret Rare Twin Twisters. Not that we really needed this considering we already have 3, but rarity bump. Why not? Secret Rare. Fancy. Right. Come on, Lady Luck. Come on, Lady Luck. Let's go. Fortune Chariot. White Dragon Ninja. Another Omega Summon. Goddess's Urd's Verdict. Outer Entity Nyarla. That looks really gnarly. Probably what it's named after. Another Omega Summon. If that could have been an invocation, that would have been so goddamn good for us. Alright. We will dig into the next pack. No time like the present. The invocation is waiting for us. I know it is. It's in here somewhere. We just gotta get there. Just gotta get there. Merveil Abyss Lead. Another one of the fishes. Ninjutsu Art of Transformation. Vision Hero Trinity. Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo. And Gateway to Chaos. Oof. Not looking great. We have 4 more packs for this week. Another Aliester wouldn't be bad either, even though we don't have an invocation yet. I wouldn't mind. Come on, Lady Luck. We got an Aliester already. We need it. Armor Ninjutsu Art of Alchemy. Another Macabre. That's really good. I was planning to run too. Fuck yeah, dude! No fucking way! We pull in a Macabre and an invocation in the same fucking pack? Dude! Hell yeah! Fusion summon 1 monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion material. If summoning an invoked fusion monster this way, you can also banish monster from your field and... Go away, cat. The cat literally just jumped on the table and unfocused it. Oof. If you're summoning an invoked fusion card this way, you can also banish monster from your field and or either player's graveyard as fusion material. If this card's in your graveyard, you can target one of your banished Aliester the Invokers. Shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, add that card to your hand. You can only use the effect of invocation once per turn. Hell freaking yeah. We can now include the invoked archetype in our deck. That is so good. Oh, I'm happy now. Armor Ninjutsu Art of Rust Mist. And a Wind Witch Ice Spell. I don't even care what's in the rest of these 3 packs. I kind of do. I want another one, but having just an invocation, oh, so good. Alright, here we go. Here we go. Now, we still need 1 more Aliester, or 2 preferably, and we probably want 2 more invocations. But we also want Magical Meltdown, which is a super rare. So if we can draw that, that'd be great. Valkyrie Drite, Ninjutsu Art of Transformation, Magic Planter, White Dragon Ninja, and... Oh, you are fucking joking with me. Are you kidding me? We'd opened, what, 11 packs and we have half of the stuff we already wanted. I swear to God I haven't tampered with these. Holy fucking shit. We just got an invocation and another Aliester. No fucking way. If I find another invocation in here or a magical meltdown, I'm gonna shit myself. Let's go. There's no goddamn way this is happening right now. What is this pack opening look? It fell down. I don't care. Ninjutsu Art of Super Transformation. Omega Summon. Now we have a... I'm sorry, I need to go shit myself. Are you fucking kidding me? Magical Meltdown. When this card is activated, you can add one Aliester from your deck to your hand. The activation of your cards and effects that include effects that fusion summons a monster cannot be negated. We have an invoked core, almost. This is insanity. This is insanity. Armored Ninja Soda, Rust Mist, and Gem Knight Seraphine. I don't... Look at this. Look at this. 8 packs. 8 packs, and you get to come here too. 8 packs! Actually 7 packs, we still have 1 left. What the fuck? Okay, you know what, I'm going in, I'm digging in. I'm digging in, let's go. Last one. Elemental Hero Magmaneos. It's gonna be beans for dinner! Abystius. Advanced Dark. Outer Entity Nyarla. What the actual fuck is this opening? Are you taking the piss here? Are you actually taking the piss on me? I've never had this luck in my goddamn life. Another Macabre, finishing off our playset of Macabre. Another Aliester, meaning we now have 2, meaning we can reliably use this card. But not only that, we also got 2 Magical Meltdowns to fetch the boy, and an Invocation. Unfortunately, it's a little bit bendy, but that can be fixed. Holy fucking shit. I'm speechless. I'm speechless. Alright, well, I guess that's this week's opening. I'm gonna go back to deck building and improve our deck to become invoked. Because holy goddamn shit, it's about to happen.
So here we are back again with duel number 1 of week 2, where we're going up against Infernoids. Infernoids is an extremely old archetype that I thought no one would be playing anymore, but they rely heavily on sending their deck to the graveyard. Our opponent starts off by sending 1 card and then a simple defense mode monster, but most of them contribute themselves or another monster they control for an effect, so he does as such and negates our Mathematician. On the other hand, we have a Shaddoll Fusion in hand, so we managed to go into a Winda to prevent him from mass summoning, setting a Falco and setting 2, 1 of which includes a Super Poly. During his next turn, he does drop a Galaxy Cyclone, destroying our Super Poly, so our out is kind of gone, getting one of his Infernities onto the board. Infernoids, whatever. He punches our window off the board, unfortunately, but that does give us back our Shaddoll Fusion, into which we draw another one. We flip open Dragon in order to return it to the hand, however, he tributes it and banishes our Dragon. We go into Perform a Pal Beatdown at this point, but he special summons Piety from his hand, which, when it deals damage to us, it drops a random card from our hand to the graveyard. However, we managed to summon back our Trickstar once again. Not Trickstar, I have blanked. Our Performa Pal. Trick Clown, that's what it is. There we go. So, a few turns pass back and forth, but he doesn't manage to get any other monsters on the board, and we just keep getting Trick Clown back, while his trap card is moving cards from his banish to his graveyard, or from his graveyard to his hand. Eventually, we manage to pop off using our Shaddoll Fusion in order to get into Construct, going into one of our traditional combos and getting as many creatures on the board as possible. Our Construct is still up on the board, fortunately, meaning we can go into Beatdown mode. We decide to flip open Beast to draw some more cards, and where we activate our first Magical Meltdown, drawing into Aliester. Aliester's effect pops off, giving us Invocation, which we use immediately to drop a Macabre. We then shuffle Invocation back into our hand to get an Aliester to our hand, so we have a monster negate ready. We then punch for game. Game 2, and our opponents decide to start this one off, and going into the combo again. However, this time he drops Monster Gate, and well, you can see by his deck going through that he ends up dumping nearly his entire deck to the graveyard, which is kind of the point of his deck. Now having 27 cards in his graveyard, he has a hand fueled with things we don't want to deal with. We immediately go into Twin Twisters, trying to get rid of whatever his face-down card is, as well as playing our Mathematician. We go into our traditional combo of bringing Dragon onto the board, go into battle phase to beat down his one monster, and we unfortunately have to end our turn there. Our opponent then begins special summoning Infernoids like there is no tomorrow thanks to the fact that his graveyard's full, and he begins punching us in the face. Piety drops a Dragon, unfortunately, which doesn't do anything when discarded this time. And then during our next turn, we pop a Pot of Avarice, hoping to draw into any answer to get rid of his graveyard, which we don't have. So we pop an Aliester, get our Invocation, pop an Invocation immediately, and bring out Apkallone. Apkallone in order to stop the effect of one of his monsters and bring out 2 more cards thanks to the discarded monsters. We then set a card and begin punching over him. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work too well, as on his turn, he begins activating Lair of Darkness, which we immediately Twin Twister because we do not want to deal with the effect. He then begins summoning things from his graveyard, like Omiyuchi, which blows up the field when it enters. We don't really have an out to this, unfortunately, as he begins just popping off with the monsters in his graveyard, as you can see. Essentially having 1 more turn to live, we get 1 more draw, and it's not good enough. During his next turn, he simply special summons a card that will destroy our face-down card, and we scoop. Game 3, our hand is not great, so we set 2 and pass, which turns out to be our traditional move at this point. He begins his Infernoid combos immediately, but this time we are prepared. We go straight into Construct to deal with any special summons he might have, setting yet another Beast. Then when he attempts to do anything, we activate Beast in order to try and destroy his fusion card in the back there. We do manage to draw into a Dragon, which we discard in order to destroy it. He then passes turn. We draw into a Super Poly, so we go straight into the beatdown strategy of punching him many times in the face, setting the Super Poly in case he gets something. Knowing Inferno, he immediately drops one of his big dudes, which we immediately Super Poly, and he scoops, giving us the first win. For match number 2, we're going up against Magical Musketeers, whose whole shebang is the fact that they can activate spell and trap cards from their hands. We attempt to do Foolish Burial, but it gets immediately ashed, and then are forced to set 2 going into our opponent's turn. Our opponent normal summons one of his Magical Musketeers, and then for some reason uses Monster Reborn on his Ash Blossom. He then goes into Magical Musketeer Max in order to fetch a trap card from his deck to his hand, and passes the turn to us. We attempt to activate Shaddoll Fusion, but it gets immediately ashed, so we are forced to use our Invocation instead, bringing out Makaba. As we attempt to activate Invocation's effect from the graveyard, we get hit with a Magical Musketeer trap card that immediately destroys one of our monsters. We are then forced to set our Wendy and pass the turn back to him, where he goes into Nightmare Phoenix to destroy our back row set Super Poly. We instead activate it immediately using his Phoenix and bring out Grista. During this time, he brings out another Magical Musketeer Max in order to bring another spell or trap card to his hand, and then pops our Grista immediately. As we attempt to bring our Shaddoll Fusion back to our hand, he pops a second one in order to banish it from the graveyard. Very unfortunate at this point, as we are losing tempo rapidly. We attempt to use Falco's effect, but it is negated by another Magical Musketeer spell or trap card, so we normal summon our Dragon in order to punch over his Magical Musketeer Max. We then fuse them off for Shaddoll Construct so we can have it in the graveyard and hopefully have a reoccurring fusion card. He normal summons something that is unfortunately large enough to beat over it as we draw into El Shaddoll Ariel, hopefully being able to special summon something from the banish. As it gets punched, it also unfortunately gets negated, and it's set to 0-0, so it is in fact destroyed. This puts us yet again in a shitty situation where our only draw is Wendy. We attempt to bring out Construct yet again, dumping Wendy, but our Construct is then destroyed. We do, however, get a Beast on the board thanks to the fact that it doesn't negate, it only destroys, but he is able to special summon 1 more Magical Musketeer from his graveyard. He then normal summons and begins his combo once again, bringing out Max in order to draw yet another trap card, then banishes most of our Shadolls from the graveyard, goes into Nightmare Unicorn, puts it on top of our deck, and then punches us in the face. At this point, we have 1 more turn in order to draw into something to rescue us from the situation. We draw into an Allure, which we activate and is not negated. However, we have to dump our entire hand, bringing only a Performance Clown, so we surrender. During the second game, we attempt to Foolish Burial again, but he activates Dimension Shifter, which means for this turn and the next, every card that enters the graveyard is banished instead. So, we are forced to dump one of our Aliesters to not lose out on value, and then set 3. He attempts to Mind Control, but we activate El Shaddoll Fusion to bring out Construct. Unfortunately, he activates Instant Fusion and brings out Thousand Eyes Restrict, simply stealing it from us and destroying it in order to bring out Anima. We then get punched in the face for 1200 with no cards in hand up against his 4. We attempt to activate Allure, which actually does not go through. unsurprisingly, meaning he can just keep rinsing and repeating now. We have 0 cards in our hand, and we are essentially locked out of doing anything. We get punched for 1200 again, he has 5 cards in hand to our 0. We then draw into Mathematician that we attempt to activate, which gets ashed. In a fit of rage, I simply punch over his Magical Musketeer, but he sets my attack and defense to 0 and negates the effect with one of his cards. We do, however, get to draw a card thanks to Mathematician's effect, so we end the turn with a dragon in hand. He then goes into Nightmare Phoenix to pop our Batgirl, which we can't really do anything about considering it's an Shaddoll fusion and we only have 1 card. We get punched twice, go into our last turn. We draw into a Super Poly that we cannot use. We set our dragon in hopes that he'll be able to do anything, but he goes into Unicorn, stacks it on top of the deck, and we concede. Hard matchup, that one. Our third game, however, goes very differently, as we are up against Gravekeepers. I activate Foolish Burial that gets immediately ashed, and I think to myself, okay, I'm going into the Invoked play. I pop Magical Meltdown, pop Aliester, pop Invocation, I get a Macabre on the board, and he scoops. We go into game 2, where he chooses to go first this time around. And Gravekeepers is not something that I've seen for many, many years, and I'm not entirely sure how competitive it is these days, but to be fair, this is the competitive server, so whatever. He activates Necro Valley and normal summons one of his monsters, dumping most of his cards from his hand, and we manage to get a beast face down. We then activate into a lore that draws us nothing, and we are forced to discard an Shaddoll fusion and another lore. Beast gets flipped up, drawing Mathematician and Squamata dumping Wendy and putting itself on the board, to be then fused into Shekinaga using one of our face downs. We have no cards in hand, so we unfortunately do not have a negate more than the dragon that is currently set along with Shekinaga. He drops Headman, which summons another Gravekeeper from his graveyard, and then goes into Left Arm Offering, dumping his hand to draw a spell card. He then simply passes turn with 2 cards in hand. We flip open Dragon in order to return his Gravekeeper to the hand, set a Super Poly, and then punch him in the face for most of his remaining life points. Activate El Shaddoll Fusion in order to bring another attacker onto the board to end the game. Clean sweep. After that incredibly quick game, we are going into game number 4, and we're up against Dragoonity. We activate Magical Meltdown to bring Aliester to our hand, bringing an Invocation, and we then go straight into Macabre, then special summoning Trick Clown back from the graveyard, activating Invocation's effect to draw Aliester back, setting a Shaddoll Invocation, and seeing what we can do. Our opponent immediately drops I can't remember the name of the regular, I think. No, it's not regular, it's Ratus. Ratus is the one to draw Dragon Ravine, dumping 2 of his cards into his Dragoonity Link monster that we negate using Macabre because that thing is terrifying. He, however, still manages to get a decent board going and manages to go into the, the level 6 Synchro, summoning back his big dude from the graveyard as he now has enough monsters to do so, and then bringing out his second Synchro monster, leaving us in a horrible, horrible position at the moment. He managed to essentially build his board to the point where we have little hope of recovery, but we do activate a lore, and we draw into 2 Super Polys. We use one of the Super Polys. Unfortunately, we don't have a Wind monster in our extra deck anymore because we took Wendigo out, meaning the only thing we have to do is a Construct. Construct, however, is not going to be enough considering he can simply negate us by removing one of his Dragoonity cards from the graveyard. We activate Shaddoll Incarnation in order to bring Dragon back in hopes that we can actually do something about the situation, but unfortunately, there is not much we can do. The Dragoonity combos keep on continuing, and no matter what we do, they are constantly negated, constantly beaten at every moment. Our Ariel does manage to bring a Construct back, however, it's not going to mean much considering the fact that it will be immediately negated if the effect activates. His Dragoonity plays keep on going. We attempt to rescue our Construct by banishing Shaddoll Incarnation to save it for 1 more turn. We draw into a Beast, which is not going to be enough, so we scoop. Moving into game number 2, our hand is slightly better to deal with the situation this time as we manage to set 3 and pass. Our opponent immediately attempts to go into his Dragoonity combos, but we activate El Shaddoll Fusion to bring out Winda, hopefully shutting him down before it starts. He goes for beating us straight in the face for 900 points of damage, and he passes, so we're probably in a good spot. We activate Magical Meltdown, bringing in Aliester, but we are setting one of our Shaddolls instead, saving as many cards in our hand as possible. Divine Lance comes down, meaning he is going to start the Dragoonity combos, but thanks to Winda, he really can't. He attempts to beat into us, but we dump Aliester to gain 1000 attack to prevent his place from starting. We flip open Squamata, attempting to destroy one of them rather, but he activates Icarus attack that destroys both of our back row. We then go in for an attack, but he flips up another card that simply blows up 2 of our cards. The only one he cannot touch here is Winda, as Winda cannot be destroyed by card effects. He goes into the Dragoonity combo once more, equipping Lance, equipping Romulus, and is attempting to beat us down with direct attacks. Unfortunately for him, however, Winda still cannot be destroyed by card effects, so we simply attempt to beat him back with Winda. At this point, we both have 1 card in our hand. He now has 0, and we're sitting on Twin Twisters. So we pop Twin Twisters, dropping our Allure and breaking both of his back row. His field is empty, his hand is empty, the moment is looking great. However, he summons Dragoonity Ducks. Ducks will bring something back from the graveyard, equipping it to him, and then special summoning it from the equip zone. We draw, unfortunately, into another Twin Twisters, which is not going to help us right now, so we simply set it, punch his ducks away, and await the next turn. He simply passes on his turn, which is great for us. Instead of summoning our Aleister, we decide to just punch the monster away and wait to see what happens. Unfortunately, he draws into his Arma, equips it with a Lance, and this means we're now in an incredibly shitty spot. We activate Twin Twisters, destroying both of the back row to reset his card to 1, but he is now able to beat over our Winda and stealing it from our graveyard. The only thing we get back is a Shaddoll Fusion. We then draw into an El Shaddoll Fusion, unfortunately, which we decide to set and then wait for the worst. At this point, he just proceeds to punch us in the face and end his turn, giving us 1 more turn to live. We draw into a Beast, unfortunately, that doesn't do us anything. He goes in for a direct attack again, leaving us at 600 life points, and with our last turn, we draw a Lost Wind and Scoop. For our last duel today, we're going up against Photon Dragons. Our opponent starts this game off by going straight into a Union Carrier, attaching one of his photons and then sacrificing it to draw another to his hand, special summoning it from his hand to search for another one, and then tribute summoning for Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. He then overlays into his Exceed Monster, which means he has a negate ready. He can also draw a card once a turn. We activate Magical Meltdown and play our Aleister, which is going to be negated, but we chain Super Poly in order to gain ourselves into a Mechaba to beat over his Union Carrier. At this point, our opponent draws a card and activates the effect of Galaxy Soldier to special summon it, chaining Infinite and Permanent so that we cannot negate it. It gets special summoned to the field to where he can draw another Galaxy card, and he draws into Galaxy Wizard. Galaxy Wizard then tributes itself to draw into a Galaxy Spell card, which special summons the Galaxy Soldier, letting him overlay into Cyber Dragon, Nova, and Infinity. Infinity steals our card by attaching it to itself and then beats us for 2,900 damage. Now that he has a negate on the board, we are kind of in a shitty situation, so we simply set Falco and an El Shaddoll Fusion and hope for the best. He activates Monster Reborn on his turn, going into Odd Ice Dragon once more, attaching Orbital to it. He then sacks Orbital to get another one, goes into a second Exceed Monster, and we scoop, knowing that we have died. Game 2, we decide to go first, and we do a traditional set 2 or 3 and pass. He immediately goes into Galaxy Soldier again, attempting to start off his combo once more. He does very easily, and at this point, I believe he's going to go into Cyber Dragon Infinity again, and he does. But he has to activate the effect to attach one of his own cards to it. We then activate El Shaddoll Fusion, which he negates, which we figured. So, he flips open El Shaddoll Hedgehog, and we draw a Shaddoll Fusion to our hand. Now, knowing he has one negate ready, we estimate that he's going to negate the Shaddoll Fusion, which he does. So, we are free to normal summon our Mathematician in order to drop Skomata, that will then drop Wendy, then will then special summon a Beast. In doing so, we can activate El Shaddoll Fusion from our hand in order to go into Construct, chaining all of our effects as usual, getting our Trick Clown back, drawing a card from Beast, and then dropping a card using Construct. Construct then beats over Infinity, destroying it immediately because it was indeed special summoned, and we then end the turn by going into Aleister. The reason we do this is so we can activate El Shaddoll Fusion to go into another Construct, getting Wendy's and Trick Clown's effect to build our board as good as possible. We then drop an Aerial to banish both Infinity and both of his Galaxy Soldiers, making sure that he cannot get them back. He then activates Dark Ruler no more and Galaxy Trance, meaning our board is now negated, and he is going to go completely ham. He does forget, however, that his monsters are negated when they're summoned with the Galaxy card. He does go into his combo again, getting into his massive Exceed Monster that is going to immediately destroy our Construct, but we banish El Shaddoll Incarnation in order to flip up our Dragon to return it to the top of the deck. In doing so, we have dealt with most of the issues, but he does manage to go into one of his big boys again and beat down most of our field. We take no battle damage this turn, however. We go for setting our dragon face down. However, he pops our trick clown, but it does return itself. Dragon gets flipped up as we return his Exceed card to the hand, and now he only has one link card open. We draw into Magical Meltdown. We simply draw into our Aliester. We activate Aliester's effect, draw into Invocation, pop our Invocation, get Mechaba on the board, activate Shaddoll Fusion, get App Cologne. App Cologne shuts its effect off. Beast will draw us into another card. Wendy will special summon yet another monster. And our board is looking mighty fine at this point. We go for beating him down for a bit. We get our Invocation back to our hand to ensure we have a monster negate for whatever he decides to play. He draws a card and scoops. For the third game, our opponent is yet again going first, activating Photon Sanctuary to create 2 tokens once more. He then goes into Vanquisher, which allows him to search for another Photon card. He then activates Trade-In in order to draw 2 more cards, and then Orbital, doing the same thing as he's done the other games. He then goes into Solace Dragon, I believe it's called, which lets him search for another one, and his combo just keeps going. At this point, I'm fearing another Link monster, but he doesn't actually get into one. He goes into defense mode and drops his negate card again, which we immediately super poly off the board into a construct. He imperms our construct for some unknown reason, but we still manage to get Falco onto the board as we drop in Allure of Darkness. We do have to discard our Falco for this, but we draw into a Magical Meltdown that will set us up for further turns. Since Shaddoll Construct's effect is negated, the normal attack goes through and he takes 800 damage. He activates Galaxy Trance, to which we activate El Shaddoll Fusion to bring up Winda. He does special summon both of his monsters, and they are both negated. He was most likely going to Exceed Summon using them, but due to Winda, he cannot. We then go into the battle phase. His effect attempts to activate, but it is indeed negated. Shaddoll Construct's effect activates and immediately destroys the card. Now with only 2 cards in hand, he only has one out, which is Photon Orbital, that he goes in to draw another one. He goes into his Vanisher combo once more. He activates Trade-In, goes into Galaxy Brave, which is actually really bad for us, but we have an Electromagnetic Turtle in graveyard that we managed to end the battle phase. During our turn, we flip open El Shaddoll Fusion in order to drop both of our cards into an App Cologne. That will set the card to 0 attack due to it negating the effect. We get 2 El Shaddoll Fusions back. We activate Invocation to get another Mechaba on the board. We flip open Falco, which gets impermed. So we do not get our construct back. We activate Invocation's effect to draw Aliester back to our hand, and we go into the battle phase and beat him in the face until he surrenders. And with that, our duels for this week come to an unfortunate end. We did manage to go 3-2 once again. However, this time we had such landslide losses that we end up earning no starships from today's duel. Incredibly unfortunate, as I was looking to unlock challenges for the next week onward. However, there isn't much we can do, because such is the way of things. On the other hand, though, doing these duels now with a slightly modified deck, I quickly begin to notice a major issue with the deck. We have no sideboard. The thing is, most of the time when it comes to negations and dealing with the board, we're able to do so pretty well with the things that we have right now. Even though we don't have a hand trap package and we don't really have anything else to assist us before the issue comes, our board management is decently good. We have Super Poly to get rid of targets. We now have Mechaba to do negates and put pressure on our opponent. But we don't have options for game 2 and 3. If we had access to more hand traps, things like Nibiru or, any of the traditional sideboarding cards, we'd be in the money. So, starting off in a few weeks, I believe we're going to start focusing more and more on gaining that sideboard that we need. And I do have a few products in mind that we're probably going to open soon-ish. For the next week, I think we're going to continue searching for that second evocation, just to make sure that we have the package ready. Now, with that in mind, we're not going to be visiting the MMMM this week. Or sorry, the MMMM. Magical Merchant will probably punch me in the face for that. As we simply don't have any star points to use. Unfortunate. Star points, star chips. Yeah, I've lost my mind. I'm a bit salty over the loss to Magical Musketeers, to be honest. But, such is a thing. We're going into the next week, picking back up where we left off, and I hope you guys will join me there. If you enjoyed this content of me rambling for way too long, remember to click the subscribe button, give the video a like if you'd like, and hey, You can leave a comment down below with ideas if you'd like as well. As for myself, I'm going to go back to bed where I belong and cry my losses away. And I'll see all of you next week. Take care out there.